All right, everyone. Welcome to a Monday morning episode of the Call Sheet Podcast here at the Fans First Sports Network. I'm your host, Kevin Smith. When you hear that music, that cheesy intro, you know it's Call Sheet time. I got to get better music. I don't know. We don't have a lot of access to cool music, a lot of AI generated stuff. I can't get the Chili Peppers to cut me a record for my show here. Boy, I would love that. Hey, but that's okay. We're gonna move forward anyway. Music, no music. And today's exciting because we're debuting a new segment. The season's over. There are no more Monday morning game balls to hand out. That's what we've been doing on Mondays for the last, 4 or 5 months. Handing out our game balls after the previous weekend's action. But we're now into the off season. So rather than Monday morning game balls, let's pivot and turn this into a Monday morning GM show. We are about to embark upon roster construction season, where all 32 NFL teams will look at their rosters and begin, whether it's through the draft or free agency, to reshape them. And that allows us the opportunity to play general manager. So Monday morning GM, we're going to be for the next several weeks, foreseeable future, playing armchair general manager, something that fans love to do, by the way. I don't know which it is that fans believe that they're more capable of, either being a team's GM or being a team's offensive coordinator. In both instances, an awful lot of football fans think, I could do that. I could do that. I can call plays. I can make trades. And we're going to take on that armchair GM role. But I have to say this, being a general manager, think about the responsibilities of a GM. You are the chief architect of an NFL team. I mean, you are responsible for building its roster. But at the same time, you have to manage the salary cap. You have to hire a coaching staff. You oversee an entire scouting department. Obviously, you draft players. You negotiate contracts. You manage trades. You're kind of the bridge between the ownership group, the coaching staff. It's a massive undertaking. I don't think most people have any idea how complicated being a general manager is. And the fact that GMs are so readily hired and fired will give us an idea of the degree of difficulty. But it's a thing that we all feel like we can do. And I'm not that different. So here we go. What are some GM moves? If I could be sort of a universal GM for the NFL, what are some moves that I would entertain? Here's one. If I were the Indianapolis Colts, I would see if I could lure Derek Carr out of retirement and sign him for the 2026 season. The Colts must have the power of persuasion, because they were just able to do something similar with Phillip Rivers, who is 10 years older than Derek Carr, 44-year-old Phillip Rivers, who came off the proverbial couch to quarterback the Colts down the stretch this past season and actually played some decent football. They didn't get great results in terms of wins and losses, but they got competent quarterback play. And as we look ahead to the 2026 season, that's something the Colts have to be asking themselves. Can we get competent quarterback play as currently constructed? Daniel Jones, who was the feel-good story of the NFL for the first half of the 25 season, tore his Achilles. His status for week 1 of next year is up in the air. Will he be rehabbed in time? When he comes back from that injury, how long is it going to take to get him back up to speed? That is not an injury with an easy recovery time, and that's not an injury you bounce back from quickly from an athletic standpoint. Most who suffer a torn Achilles, even when they get back on the field, are not 100% for a while. Plus, Daniel Jones is a free agent. So all that talk might be premature. He may choose to go elsewhere, or the Colts may choose to allow him to walk. Behind Daniel Jones on that quarterback depth chart in Indianapolis, you have Riley Leonard, who played a little bit this past season and did some decent things, but I think that the Colts, and I don't know this for a fact, but this sounds pretty reasonable. I think the Colts do not want to go into 2026 with Riley Leonard penciled in as the starting quarterback. They still have Anthony Richardson, although that experiment seems to be a significant failure and the Colts appear ready to move on. Who's their quarterback? You could make a big trade for a Kyler Murray or a Tua Tagovailoa, but if I'm the Colts and I look at what I was able to do with Phillip Rivers, and I understand that Derek Carr has expressed some interest about coming back. He's only been out of the league for 1 year. He's 34, not 44. He has a big arm. The Colts have a talented roster. Per PFF, they had the second best offensive line in the NFL this past year. They have Jonathan Taylor. They have Michael Pittman. Alec Pierce, he's a free agent, but it looks like they're going to try to re-sign him. He's a nice wide receiver too. Ty Warren, stud tight end. That offense has pieces. They need a guy to engineer it. Don't take on a massive contract in a Murray or a Tagovailoa. Don't roll the dice on Jones recovering from his Achilles or being able to re-sign him for a reasonable number. Don't bank on a Riley Leonard or an improbable Anthony Richardson comeback. If you're going to take a risk, and all those moves are risky, if you're going to take a risk, Derek Carr, I think, has the biggest upside for the most reasonable salary, and you sign him to a 1-year deal, and if it doesn't work out, well, then you go quarterback fishing the next season. I think that's a GM move I'd be willing to make. Here's another one. Minnesota Vikings, another team that's got a quarterback issue. Things did not work out the way they wanted this past season with J.J. McCarthy. McCarthy is only 2 years into his rookie contract, so he's going to come back. He's going to compete for the starting job. But would you, if you were the Vikings, feel confident handing off the starting job to J.J. McCarthy without bringing in any true competition? I think the answer is clearly no. You have to have a quarterback competition in Minnesota. Some of the quarterbacks we just mentioned, in perhaps connection to the Colts, the bigger name guys, Kyler Murray, Tua Tagovailoa, they come with huge price tags. Both of those guys are signed through 2028. They're both owed tens of millions of dollars. Minnesota has the third worst salary cap situation in the NFL. They're not in a position right now to be able to go out and spend a ton of money on a quarterback. So where do you turn? If I were the Vikings, if I were GM in Minnesota, I would see if I could engineer a trade for Mac Jones. Mac Jones, the backup to Brock Purdy in San Francisco, played in 11 games this past season, played some darn good football. 70% completion percentage, 13 touchdowns against 6 interceptions, 97.4 quarterback rating. Led the 49ers to some quality wins through the middle of the season when Purdy was on the shelf. Mac Jones in San Francisco looks a little bit like he could have experienced a Sam Darnold type turnaround. It's interesting. Where did Sam Darnold go for a year that he says began to change his career? San Francisco in 2023. And he didn't play, but he said his year with Kyle Shanahan helped him reset himself at the quarterback position. He learned a lot of things that he didn't understand about playing quarterback. And he then went to Minnesota the very next year under Kevin O'Connell, and his career took off. And now Sam Darnold's a Super Bowl champ. Mac Jones and Sam Darnold, not that different in terms of their career arc. I think Darnold's crash was a little more spectacular, but probably only because of where he was taken in the draft, number 3 overall. Jones went further down. But Jones has now been in several stops. Jones is a guy who clearly seems to have benefited from his time with Kyle Shanahan. And Jones is a guy who Kevin O'Connell could probably fix. Can't guarantee he'll be Sam Darnold 2.0, but I think he could give Minnesota some pretty good quarterback play. And at worst, he would push J.J. McCarthy so that J.J. McCarthy is playing better football. And the best part, if you're the Vikings, if you are the salary cap strapped Vikings, who, as we stand today, are $40 million over the cap, Mac Jones is signed through next season for $2.8 million. That is a doable contract if you are the Vikings. GM move number 2, Vikings, go get Mac Jones. All right. Those are important moves because they involve starting quarterbacks, but they don't necessarily involve some of the biggest name players in the game. Let's get after 2 bold moves. Let's go big with our last 2 moves here. Let's see. I'm playing Universal GM, okay? So let's see if we can shoot for the stars with this one and engineer a trade. And by shoot for the stars, I'm talking about players. Let's see if we can engineer a trade between the Philadelphia Eagles and the Las Vegas Raiders, a one-on-one swap, Maxx Crosby for A.J. Brown. It makes a lot of sense. Maxx Crosby for A.J. Brown. It makes a lot of sense. A.J. Brown has been disgruntled for just about his entire tenure in Philadelphia. He's been unhappy over his targets, his use in the offense, the structure of the offense, the quarterback play, beefing with Jalen Hurts, both on and off the field, involving football, involving women. It's been nonstop drama with A.J. Brown in Philadelphia. Maxx Crosby has been a good soldier in Las Vegas, but he was clearly unhappy with the way the Raiders handled him down the stretch last year. The Raiders went into a soft tank to try to land the number 1 overall pick, which of course they did. Crosby was deactivated for the final game of the regular season, despite the fact that he said, I'm fine, I can play. He hasn't straight out said it, but you get the feeling Maxx Crosby could use a fresh start, and he has said he wants to play for a contender. Getting A.J. Brown to Las Vegas would give him the fresh start he desires. He would get to play with the number 1 overall pick in the draft, Fernando Mendoza, for a quarterback, or for a coach, I should say, Clint Kubiak, who is quarterback friendly and knows how to structure a passing game. Look at how Jackson Smith-Njigba's career took off under Clint Kubiak. He would have weapons on that offense around him. Brock Bowers, Ashton Genty. Maxx Crosby in Philadelphia would step into a situation where the Eagles could use an upgrade to their current edge rushing room. Moro Ojomo was tremendous this past season. He will be entrenched. But Jalen Phillips, who the Eagles traded for from the Miami Dolphins at the deadline, got off to a big splash in Philly, but his play leveled off. And in their playoff loss, Phillips, well, he was a non-entity, injured, but still, it doesn't look like Jalen Phillips is going to give Philly the level of play they could use in that Vic Fangio defense. Remember, Vic Fangio is not a blitz-happy guy. He wants to get after the quarterback with his front 4. But to do that, he could use an elite pass rusher to pair with Moro Ojomo. Moro Ojomo, Maxx Crosby, and Phillips as your 3rd guy would give Philly a really good pass rushing rotation. Salary-wise, it matches up. Crosby signed for 3 years and $106 million. Brown is signed for 3 years and $94 million. That is in the realm of making it doable. Obviously, you could toy around with the back end, some pick swaps, maybe some fringe players if you had to level out the salary caps, satisfy the NFL's trade requirements, etc. Star for a star. Need for need. Give each guy the situation they want. Get Brown to a more pass-friendly offense and a fresh start. Get Crosby to a contender. I'd love to see that one happen. All right, and let's say the maybe the biggest one for last. Steelers fans. Know there are many Steelers fans who listen to the Call Sheet podcast. Appreciate you all. Steelers fans, buckle in, sit down, pour yourself a drink, do what you got to do to calm your nerves. Here we go. Steelers fans, GM move for 2026 would be to trade TJ Watt. And I know that is almost sacrilegious, and I know that sounds as though I'm unappreciative. I am not. TJ Watt is an all-time Steeler. He's crafting a Hall of Fame career. He is a guy who I've enjoyed watching play about as much as any Steeler in recent memory. He's also a guy who will turn 32 years old in October, coming off of one of his worst seasons as a pro. In his 10 NFL seasons, he just turned in a year where he had the second fewest sacks and the third fewest quarterback pressures of his career. The list of NFL edge rushers who have produced elite pass rushing seasons at age 32 or better is really short. Really short. It's Kevin Green. It's Ricky Jackson. James Harrison did it for a year. That's it. TJ Watt could be a good role player. TJ Watt could be a good rotational player. TJ Watt is still going to make a splash. He's still going to force teams to double team him at times, to turn their protection towards him at times. But is TJ Watt going to be the guy who you can put on the left edge of the defense where he's always lined up and just bank on him winning one-on-ones against offensive tackles or being able to fight through all those double teams he's going to get? Those double teams have taken a toll. He is noticeably a hair slower to the quarterback than he once was. And a hair slower makes all the difference in the NFL. After this year, this may be the last year that TJ Watt could give you double-digit sack production. After this year, his value will plummet. If the Steelers were smart, they'd move on now. They would move on a year too early than a year too late. They would take a page out of what Bill Belichick was very famous for. Move on a year too early. Get assets in return. I don't know exactly what the market for TJ Watt is, but I'm pretty sure you could get a top 50 pick in the NFL draft for him, a second round pick. I don't know if you can get a first right now for TJ, but you could get a second. The Steelers need assets. The Steelers need big time players. They need a quarterback. They need a corner. They need a safety. They need a splash player at wide receiver. They've got 12 picks in the draft. You could increase that number in a trade for Watt, package some of those picks, move up, maybe get into the back end of the first round to draft one of those big need positions, early second round, whatever it might be. And here's the best part. You have an in-house replacement. Nick Herbig, a young player Steelers fans have been clamoring for to see the playing field more. Now, we've never seen Nick Herbig give us elite production for an entire season yet because he's never been given that chance. You don't know if he can do it. It's a risk. This would be a risky move. It would piss off a lot of the fan base, and it would put a lot of pressure on Herbig to be the guy in a full-time role that he has been in a part-time role, and that doesn't always translate. But how else are you going to find out with Nick Herbig? How else are you going to find out unless you give him the reps? Trade TJ Watt while you can still get high value for him. Turn that trade into a young player who can help, whether it's at wide receiver, defensive backfield, wherever. Plug Nick Herbig into the starting lineup. Now Jack Sawyer, who's your number 4 on the edge, becomes your number 3, which I'm okay with. Bold move. But if the Steelers want to get unstuck from where they are currently mired in the status of a good team that cannot become a great team. If you want to get unstuck, you're going to have to make some bold moves. All right, that is our Monday morning GM show, right? We will repeat this theme on Mondays as we go, not necessarily just with hypotheticals, but as the combine comes around, we'll get a little bit more rooted in what's going on with the draft. And there will be big moves that are going to be made on the horizon, and we'll analyze them as well. So it's always busy here at the Call Sheet. Stay with us. Appreciate all of your support. Until Wednesday, then. Oh, by the way, if you didn't get a chance, let me say this right here as we wrap up. If you didn't get a chance, go back and listen to Friday's show. That didn't drop until Friday afternoon, so some of you morning listeners probably missed it. Doug Farrar, my guest from Sports Illustrated, Athlon Sports, Washington Post, Yahoo, ESPN's written for anybody that matters in the sports world. He was fantastic. We talked about desperation being a catalyst for innovation in the NFL and storytelling and GMs and all sorts of great stuff. So that was Monday or Friday's show. Go back and listen to that if you missed it. Until Wednesday then. Hope everybody has a great day. Take care.